Hello, this is Max Grossman from the Paso Taxpayer Revolt, and I am pleased today to have as our special guest Minerva Torres Shelton. And she is a candidate for county judge, Republican, running against the Democratic incumbent Ricardo Samaniego. So glad to have you, Minerva.
Thank you for having me. No, seriously, thank you for inviting me.
Why are you running for county judge?
So there's a lot of reasons why I'm running. One is because we need accountability. We haven't had accountability here, and my passion has always been, when I see an injustice, there's something in my heart that just tells me that I have to do something about it. I know that sounds, but that's really the reason. I saw what was happening here. They're taking advantage of certain people, and we need to change that because of the lack of visibility.
Right, and I know you're very concerned about the fiscal direction of the county and how they handle budgeting.
And again, that's one of the reasons they pass a lot of things. And sometimes it's not like they're necessarily hiding it because they do it in the open, but they know that people are busy. Nobody attends the county commissioner's court. So nobody follows, so they pass, things that are going to increase our taxes, and people, because they're busy, they have no clue.
Right. So why don't you tell us just a little bit about your background, where you're from, and career-wise, how you got to this point?
So I lived in Mexico for a little bit, and then we came to the States. I went to college and got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. After that, I joined the military, where I was a military intelligence sergeant, served there 6 years of active and inactive duty.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. Then I went into the PD, where I served there 5 years, El Paso PD, working the streets of Central. And then after the attacks on 9/11, I joined the FBI, where I served there 21 years. I worked criminal to counterterrorism matters. I was a supervisor, did 2 years in DC, and then came back home here to El Paso. So yeah, I was able to get my master's. I have a master's in international relations. So that's my background.
That's an impressive background. So it's fair to say that you have extensive academic, military, and law enforcement experience. And I would say you're probably a very disciplined person.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I love reading. I love educating myself. So I think that's what it led me to.
Okay. Well, let's talk about your opponent. That's sort of the main topic today. We're talking about Ricardo Samaniego, who's been in office many years now. I will tell you that initially, when he ran against John Cook for his first term, I supported him. In fact, I met with him right over there in that kitchen more than once to talk about strategy and to try and get a sense of him. I thought, he's a businessman. He understands the challenges of running a business in a high-tax environment, and he seemed to be completely on board as a fiscal conservative. And then with time, alarm bells began to ring, and within a couple of years, he seemed to be very much in the camp of the big developers and their bankers and attorneys, having lunch with the elite, and very soon that translated into a series of disappointing votes and then very, very alarming votes. So let's go through some of the talking points here. So Ricardo Samaniego voted for $894.4 million in new bonds between the county and UMC. That is an all-time record. All of this went on the ballot, and the voters supported a little over $550 million, but he wanted $894.4 million in bonds. He also supported a $137 average tax increase on your typical El Paso home. So this guy spends money. How do you feel about that volume of bonds being issued so quickly?
It's terrible. It's terrible, and a lot is what I mentioned before, is they do a lot of things that the community doesn't know or doesn't understand. And that's one of my other passions, is I love to simplify things, and I guess because I'm very visual myself. And I think and I do small videos educating the community, I think if more people understood what's happening, they would oppose a lot of these things that they put on the ballot, but they don't understand. A lot of people go to vote and don't understand even the language, the way it reads. It's even difficult for me, I'm sure. Sometimes I have to do my homework in advance. So that's how they get away with it. There's no visibility. I started calling them out on the lack of visibility, and until recently, Judge Samaniego has started doing a video saying, oh, we're getting started, we're gonna have county commissioners court, and I thought, why did it take this long to have that kind of visibility? But again, they hide a lot of things, and that's how they get away with it.
Okay. He has also supported certificates of obligation and voted for tax anticipation notes, and these are debt instruments that do not require voter approval. So he has issued non-voter approved debt by the tens of millions of dollars, and this is something that we at the El Paso Taxpayer Revolt fiercely oppose. Where do you stand on COs and tax anticipation notes?
So, excellent question. So let me elaborate a little bit. I'm completely opposed to certificates of obligation. However, the reason why certificates of obligation are created is in case of an emergency. So I am telling the community, voters, I'm against certificates of obligation, but I cannot stand and say, well, I'm never going to issue one, because we don't know what might happen. And back in 2006, we had a flooding where you need emergency money. So that's what certificates of obligation are there for. But besides that, no. I mean, just recently, it was in 2005 that they passed a certificate of obligation. Their justification was that the colonias didn't have water there for over 60 years. I went and spoke at the county commissioner's court against it. What they didn't say, of course, unless you're there was the developer who was speaking in favor of the certificate of obligation because they were going to build new housing there. Those are the things that are not visible to the community. I'm all about investing and, growth. But why isn't the developer paying for that themselves? Why are they having the voters have to pay for that? So no, I'm to answer your question, I'm against certificates of obligation, but in case of an emergency, which is hurricane, God forbid we have one, or a flooding, that's what certificates of obligation should be used.
And we support that. The Controller's Office of the state of Texas has always provided guidance that COs should be used for dire emergencies. And other cities like Houston and Dallas have issued COs in very small amounts, just a few million, to deal with flooding and hurricanes. But they do not issue them to balance their budgets or pay for streets or extend water infrastructure. That seems to be an El Paso thing, and we are dead against it, and we're so glad that you agree. Let's talk about salary increases. In Texas, commissioners' courts set their own salaries. And in the case of Samaniego, he has voted for 2 salary increases for himself and his colleagues, and his salary has gone up 45.3% since he assumed office. He is now making $152,700. He does not hold a PhD or a master's degree. There's no particular qualification to be county judge except getting elected. A lot of people, I think, are very upset that he got a 45.3% self-imposed raise. I'd love to get a 45% raise. Heck, I'd settle for a 10% raise. What do you think about that?
Again, they did this during commissioner's court. They voted themselves to give themselves a raise. In which other job, profession, does a person get to say, I'm going to give myself a raise? Because like you, I would have given myself a raise too. But you can't do that. So an elected official, why did he decide to do that? I mean, just the fact that he's making the same as the governor of Texas, as a county judge. And I'm a firm believer, just like I push back, I believe that leaders should walk whatever we're saying. And in this case, I am going to present a resolution where we need to cut back the salary of the county judge, because it's not fair. It's not fair to the people when the rest of us are suffering. He gets to give himself a raise.
And the 4 commissioners now make $133,500 a year, which is totally unacceptable. It is obscene. City council representatives make in the low 60s, and the mayor makes a little over $89,000. Why should county commissioners make more than double what city council reps make? Even their senior aides make over $100,000 a year, the people who answer the phone at the front desk and handle their business. I just don't understand it. And you've got people like Commissioner Stout and Samaniego constantly complaining that 70% of the county budget is encumbered by the state. And that might be true, right? The county has mandates that have to be paid for, and maybe it is 70% of their budget. But all the reason to be more careful with the 30% you do have control over. Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And they do use that state mandates a lot of times, but they never tell you what those state mandates are. So like I don't know, what are those state mandates? How much are they raising? Why don't you tell us that? If we do have a lot of state mandates, then we need to go and seek funding for that. So why haven't they done that? And why don't they describe what those state mandates are?
Exactly. Now, the most controversial issue of our day, of course, is the deck plaza, which we at the Taxpayer Revolt call the debt plaza, because that's exactly what it is. Its proponents claim it will cost $207 million, when the Stantec study that was commissioned at a cost of $1.3 million states very clearly that it is a $412 million project. We're talking about the concrete slab, its support system, and what is planned to go on top of it, $412 million. And there is very little money for it. 8 grants have been applied for by the city. All but 1 have been rejected. The $100 million they applied for, they've only got less than $1 million, with $60 million rejected so far. Financially, this is a disaster. The Downtown Deck Plaza Foundation is claiming they've got $35 million in private money pledged, but it turns out that that money is pledged for the quote-unquote amenities to go on top of the deck plaza, as opposed to the structure itself. They've got till October to get this project together. Meanwhile, our streets look like Beirut, okay? Our infrastructure is crumbling. Our parks are starting to look pretty sad. And yet we're going to move forward with this 5-block deck slab in downtown El Paso. They're claiming that it is going to generate $1 billion in economic activity over 30 years. And I point out that if you take $412 million, forget the bond interest, just $412 million, and you put it in instruments that yield 5%, you'll have $1.8 billion in 30 years. Much more than $1 billion. And so the ROI is appalling. Samaniego voted for $1 million of county funds to support this project. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm against the deck plaza for the same reasons, that they haven't told us where the funding is coming from. So typical of what they do. Let's pass. They paint a pretty picture. I mean, it looks beautiful, right? We're going to walk all our dogs up there, and seniors are going to do yoga. So they paint it pretty picture. But tell us where the money is coming from. And one of the things that Samaniego does is he'll talk about like the people, referring to the people that push back, like myself, is, oh, but because you can afford to go on vacation. We're building this deck plaza for the people in our communities who can't afford to leave, so they can enjoy, that's their vacation. Well, I can tell you that I go to Socorro, I go to Sanelli, Clint, all those communities, and I ask them about how they feel about the deck plaza. They have no clue what the deck plaza is. You know what they're worried about? That they have dirt roads that some people can't even get to their home. Emergency services can't get to their home because they can't drive through those roads. And when they complain to the city says, well, that's private property. We can't fix roads when they're on private property. Well, everybody's like, that's not my road. So it's, if you've never, and that's the other thing I said, when have you seen Judge Samaniego walk these streets, talk to the small business owners? He hasn't. Nobody has seen him out there, but you do see his banners. When it's time for election, you see his banners up there. And that is what we need to change. because they are abusing their power.
Right.
And that's the education piece that I educate the community is they're elected officials. They have to listen to the people. Clear example, what just happened. Republicans, Democrats, we both align. We don't want the deck plaza. And it's been well known because it's been published by the media. A lot of people have talked about it. And he just voted. Samaniego voted and he voted in favor of it. So that should tell you how he feels about your voice. It doesn't matter to him what you feel. He wants that deck plaza for, I'm sure, because people are telling him that this is a good idea. So he's not listening. Elected officials are elected to listen to us. And if they're not, if they don't want to listen to the people, then he needs to get another job where he doesn't have to listen to the people.
Right. I mean, I think that the concept is interesting. It could be a beautiful project.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, you know, if Woody Hunt, Paul Foster, and their friends want to come up with $500 million and pay for it, I'm all for it. We can go hang out there under a tree and watch the trolleys go by. But I'm not going to pay for it.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally get it. Like I said, they paint a pretty picture, but first tell us who's paying for it. And the plan, the maintenance, everything that is going to require. And then you might get me to endorse it. But if it's going to be taxpayers.
Yeah, just the maintenance is expected to be up to $8 million a year, M&O. And everybody always points to the Deck Plaza in Dallas, the Clyde Warren Deck Plaza. But of course, their maintenance is paid for by a private foundation. You know, they've got, you know, a much larger economy than we do. And they've got resources and donors that we just do not have. That $8 million a year will fall on us. We all know that.
And the one in New York took 10 years to build.
Yeah.
So
the one in Austin is coming in 61% over budget. So the population of the county has declined by 2,000 people in 1 year. This is the first population decline since 1932, since the Great Depression. Everywhere else in Texas, counties in urban areas are exploding. Texas has the #1 economy in the United States, one of the greatest and most dynamic economies in the world. And here we are in El Paso, shrinking. Both city and county are shrinking. And we're told, oh, these people are leaving because there are no amenities here. We need to give them more to do. We've already given them ballpark, water parks, trolleys, all kinds of stuff. They're still leaving. And meanwhile, our property taxes are among the very highest in the country, even though our average wage is among the very lowest in the country. Why do you think people are leaving the county?
Because of our taxes.
Because of our taxes.
And a lot of them don't leave very far. If they have family here, they just move to New Mexico because we're right next to New Mexico. So that's the reason why they're moving, because it's our taxes. I mean, I have friends who have moved to New Mexico because of the taxes. I've been knocking on tons of doors. I actually, before the primaries, I knocked on 2 doors where people said, sorry, we're not going to be here. We're moving. Can't keep up with the taxes.
Yeah. Actually, during the census period, Santa Teresa, Las Cruces, and Sunland Park grew more than 14% during the last census period, while we had anemic growth, just barely registerable. And so, obviously, large numbers of El Pasoans are moving to New Mexico, you're correct, where the property tax is a fraction of what it is here. Yes, they've got an income tax, but now it's to the point where it is advantageous to go there financially, especially for retirees.
I mean, if I could add another thing too about taxes, property taxes. So a lot of people don't understand how it works. So we have the tax rate and we have the market value.
Right.
And that's really what is affecting us, because they both don't want to take accountability for what's happening. The Central Appraisal District, when you go and protest, people walk in there and say, and I know this because I served in the Appraisal Review Board, you get people like from, you know, communities who, like Saneli, Socorro, they don't really understand. They're there because they can't afford to live in their homes. And so they'll say, I'm here to fight my taxes. And they're like, we have nothing to do with taxes. Go talk to County Commissioner's Court or City Council. So then when we go and tell City Council and County Commissioner's Court, don't raise our property taxes, don't raise our taxes. We're not raising, the tax rate is staying the same. Go talk to the Central Appraisal District.
Yeah.
So they're pointing the finger at each other while we're the ones left paying for it because nobody wants to take accountability. And so that's the education piece. That yes, they absolutely can control the tax rate. And so which would at least, but the market value keeps going up. So again, there's a lot of it is the education piece, that there's no visibility. Nobody has taken the time to educate the community, and they cover themselves. Again, one more thing about Central Appraisal District. They said, well, I didn't know all this stuff. They point to the letter that you received, turn to the back of the letter. It's full of small, tiny letters. It tells you right there. Nobody took the time to educate the community until now. Some of that has been going around. People are learning on how to protest because if you don't prepare, you're going to be completely lost by the whole process.
That's right. Every July, the state of Texas informs the taxing entities what the property valuations are in the various communities. And so the county, in late July, receives notice from the state. Here's what the property valuations are. And if you want to set a tax rate, this is the no new revenue tax rate. El Paso County, here's the tax rate above which it's a tax increase, below which it's a tax decrease. At that point in August, it goes to the Commissioner's Court, who then vote on a tax rate based on those valuations. If the valuations go up sharply, the tax rate oftentimes comes down so that you're collecting the same amount of revenue, right? And so the tax rate has been going down in recent years because the valuations have been skyrocketing. And there we have the mayor of El Paso, the county judge, bragging, we have the lowest tax rate in a generation. Who cares? The valuations cancel that out completely and some, and we end up paying more. Isn't that right?
No, absolutely.
You know,
and that's one of the reasons why I want to go through the budget and find out where is it going. Like there's needs, another thing, and I know this is a little bit off track, but I think people sometimes don't realize the jail. Yeah, people committing suicide.
Scary.
And we need to ask the sheriff, what are you doing to fix this? How does that affect me and you? Is because every time there's a suicide, the family will likely or can sue the county because of what happened. And that's the right, because their loved one was in jail. We as the government had to protect them. So how much money is it? How many of those lawsuits have we, the county, lost? Meaning that we have to give money to the family. So that amount right there, so we need to fix that. We need to make sure that the amount of suicides that we have are close to zero.
And it's not just suicide. I mean, the total number of deaths in custody in the last calendar year approaching a dozen, which is way out of kilter with the average and is very alarming. And the buck stops with the county and the sheriff. And you're right, we need answers. Now, let's move forward to COVID. COVID obviously was controversial. Ricardo Samaniego took a hard line and shut down businesses across the board. The economy took a major hit. Some felt it was necessary, others felt it was heavy-handed. Where do you stand on the judge's performance on COVID?
So, I mean, remembering back when COVID happened, I was still in the FBI back then. A lot of us didn't know what it was happening. I mean, I was in DC on a temporary duty assignment when everything shut down in DC, like completely, hotels, everything. It was a ghost town. So a lot of us didn't know what was going on. So at the beginning, nobody knew. But then as time went on, when the governor of Texas decided, okay, it's time, we're going to open up the city, let small businesses open. What did Samaniego do? He came out and he says, oh no, we're not going to open small businesses. And I thought, well, when do you override what the governor of Texas says?
He countermanded the governor of Texas.
He had to be sued to open it up. I think the attorney general is the one who sued him and said, no, yes, you will open up the city. And I thought, I am the product of a small business. And I thought, if I put myself back in those times when my parents had a restaurant, there was 6 of us, and then 5 of us. I had a sister who passed away, but we were a big family. We all depended on what was coming in from that restaurant, and I thought that would have destroyed us as a family. And I thought, of course he's going to do this because he hasn't lived it. He doesn't understand it. And if with all the things that they had to follow, the big stores, they had to be careful that we all wore a mask. That was easy for a small business. It would have been easier for a small business to protect the people who were coming in. So my heart broke for the small businesses at that time. So no, I don't agree with what he did. Also, he's having a party at his house.
There it is.
When he's telling us not to gather at our in groups, yeah, he's doing it himself.
City attorney did the same thing. Had a gathering at her house.
It's completely sad.
Plus, there were major loopholes for the large building contracting firms. They picked and choose which businesses were allowed to stay open. Some businesses lost their livelihoods completely, and others were permitted to stay open.
Mm-hmm. Which he's doing the same thing now with. He mismanages. He tries to distance himself from what's happening with the tax assessor's office. But if you look at it, I'm not saying that one or the other is more to blame, right? But the tax assessor, yes, it's a separate entity. He's an elected official. But if you're the tax assessor and you're coming to me as a county judge saying, this law is coming down, we have a year to prepare, I need more bodies. And if I tell you, no, I'm not going to give you any more bodies, well, it's something that it's going to fail. It's going to fail eventually. And so we're in a deficit right now. He has completely mismanaged the county. And that is, if I could just tell your followers, please like and share. Tell other people that this is happening, because a lot of people don't realize how bad he has mismanaged the county. And we, the people, have to turn that around, because it is affecting all of us in the pocket.
That's right. And in the meantime, I'll just say it, sometimes Samaniego acts like a clown. For example, last year he goes on a television series called Tex-Mex and purchases a Lamborghini. The entire thing was staged. And by the way, most of El Paso does not know that it was staged. It looks like this wheeling and dealing judge goes out and buys a Lamborghini. That's on international television. What's that?
Well, I mean, again, just the optics of it. It's like people are suffering and you're doing this. He shows up to the state of the county on a horse. Like, I mean, seriously, like the optics of it. Like, maybe Judge Samaniego should go and visit those communities in Horizon and Socorro and Clint. Talk to people and see how people really are suffering. Talk to the small businesses. They're hurting. I'm sorry, I get very passionate about this because he doesn't care.
Yeah, and look, there is a change afoot, right? The 2 commissioners who were incumbents both got primaried out. Sergio Coronado of Precinct 4 and David Stout of Precinct 2 were just shown the door by the voters. In the case of Coronado, by a very large margin. And these are spenders, pro-deck plaza, pro-big government, pro-tax and spend. And the voters saw right through it. We're talking Democrats. And threw them out. And now all 4 candidates who are running for those 2 positions, 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans, have gone on the record. They're against tax increases, they're against COs, they're against the deck plaza. They're generally conservative, just like Ileana Holguin. Now, Commissioner Holguin, we've always supported. She's a Democrat. She's a blue dog Democrat, very much like Brian Kennedy. She is fiscally very conservative and not afraid to be the lone vote in support of the taxpayers. So she's, from our standpoint, got a 90 to 95% perfect voting record. Not perfect, but excellent. And we're always going to support her. Now, you're a Republican. And you're coming into a commissioner's court that is going to change. We're going to have 3 out of 5 members of the court after this election, minimum 3 out of 5, who are going to be fiscally conservative, and if you win, that would be 4 out of 5. So you're going to have the wind at your sails if you can pull this off. Now, you do have an R next to your name. Republicans have been doing much better lately in countywide elections. I'm thinking about Bill Hicks and Irene Armendariz-Jackson. And here we are now, you're running against a pretty unpopular guy who happens to be a Democrat. How do you plan to appeal to Democratic voters? Because you're going to need them in order to win this election.
So I've been talking to Democrat voters for a long time, even during the primary. So my message, I think that if this office, dealt with legislation, I would be more worried. But I'm talking to the regular voters, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Liberal, I'm talking to everybody because all of us are hurting in the pockets. That doesn't come with a party. And so I am talking to everyone. I have people on my team who are Democrats because they want change. So I'm talking to everybody. I'm not making, highlighting my Republican. Yes, I am a Republican because I believe in small government. I believe I'm the product of a small business. I saw what a big government can do to you. If you have a small business, they take more of your taxes, more of your money. And I'm a firm believer that if you work hard for your money, you should be able to keep more of that money. And then you decide how you want to do that, donate it to the dog shelter or donate it to a homeless shelter, however you want to do. So that's what makes me a Republican, because I'm fiscally conservative. And that's the message I'm taking to all the voters. I'm talking to everybody. And yeah, I mean, we need change. It's the lack of visibility that is hurting all of us.
How do you respond to Democrats who come at you with federal politics or state politics and say, well, I don't support Donald Trump. Where do you stand on immigration? Where do you stand on abortion? Things that have absolutely nothing to do with the job at hand. How do you respond to them?
I actually, bring it back again to what I'm focused on. And I'm focused on what we're paying, the amount of taxes, the lack of visibility that happens in our town. That's where my message always goes back. Yeah, maybe those topics are important to some people, and they should be to some people, but I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on bringing back transparency to the county commissioner's office. We're being overtaxed, underrepresented. Where is our money going? I worked in the FBI for 21 years. One of the things I know how to do is I know how to follow the money. I know how to ask tough questions. If you come before the county judge and want to ask me for the same amount of budget that you asked for last year, then you're going to have to justify it. How you're spending that money. Why? Because it's hurting families, it's hurting small businesses, and we need to change that.
Excellent. So at this point, I want to tell you that we set a very high threshold to endorse candidates. Candidates we endorse for office must be fiscally conservative. They must stand with the taxpayers. They have to be ethical. They have to have a background that shows that they're capable of doing the job. And they also have to have a pragmatic strategy to win. They have to be a viable candidate. You check off all those boxes for us, and we are proud to endorse you, Minerva.
Oh,
we think that you're going to be our next county judge. We're going to stand behind you in your election. This is our very first endorsement. Might even be our only endorsement, but we feel very strongly about your candidacy, and we'd encourage all of our viewers to go ahead and support her. How can our followers support your campaign?
Excellent question. Thank you for asking it. So I always tell people this campaign is about the people. I can't do this alone. And I've been blessed with a great group of people who are helping me. And that's why I said I have Democrats who are helping me, because they want change. This is not about me. I've been blessed. I could live happily ever after because I've had a long career, been fiscally responsible throughout my life. I am doing this because we need change in our community. So please, I need your support. I need your help. Any donation that you can make, everything help. Everything's going for yard signs, banners, campaign material.
What's the web page?
So my page is Minerva for El Paso, so it's www.minervaforelpaso.com. If you go there, you'll see a donation button, or you can also volunteer. Like I said, we need volunteers, whether delivering yard signs, putting up banners. The day of the election, we need people to stand and help us as people show up to vote. There is so much to do, and we need your support. Yeah, like I said, anything that you can do is going to help us change the way our county, our community has been working.
Minerva is going to right the ship. She needs your financial support. www.minervaforelpaso.com. You can support her financially, and you can also support her by volunteering as a block walker or poll watcher. Minerva, it was such an honor
so much for
to see you here,
thank you for your
and it is our honor to support you.
Yeah, thank you. Great talking to you. Great interview. So thank you so much.
Thank you. El Paso Taxpayer Revolt checking out.